Reborn into a different world, the unrestrained Ye Chu faced numerous peerless geniuses and devoted himself to worldly beauty. How he breaks through the sky, shakes the heavens, and the world looks up. Chapter 1. Beautiful falling into the water. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Cold Lake. Yao City is famous for it, and the cold lake occupies almost half the size of Yao City. At first glance, it looks like a bright mirror set on the earth. On a sunny day, the water waves are rippling, and on a rainy day, the mountains are shrouded in mist. Countless literati and literati have left admirable poems here, creating the beautiful name of the cold lake and also making people remember Yao City. In autumn, the cold lake shimmers with ripples. Although the cool breeze carries a slight chill on the body, under the autumn sunshine, the surroundings of the cold lake embankment are still lively. Enjoy the beauty of this cold lake. But under such a beautiful scenery, there is a young man who is out of place with this situation. The young man dressed in ordinary clothes, his face became increasingly pale, his lips were thin, and there were some fuzzy whiskers on his lips. His eyes were expressionless, but it was just this pathological look. His lifeless eyes were fixed on the passing young girl, and occasionally, when a woman with snowy thighs walked by, a rare glimmer of luster appeared in those eyes. The young man leaned against a willow tree and looked at the young girls passing by, looking somewhat reckless. I didn't expect that after leaving for 3 years, there would be many beautiful women in Yaocheng. The young man's undisguised gaze also made many beautiful women show disgust and avoid this side. This scene made the young man chuckle and say, "Oh. It seems impossible to find a woman who can talk about her life ideals and recite a song to them, stop and sit in the maple forest night. A few young women with some beauty avoided the boy and glanced at him before whispering, "Do you think this bastard who looks at women randomly looks a bit like that scumbag from Yaocheng?" It looks a bit similar, no wonder it feels familiar. I saw several girls spitting and looking extremely disgusted. Even though a young man who has undergone 3 years of mental training in this world, he still feels a bit bitter in his heart. The boy's name is Ye Chu. He was not originally a person in this world, but he came to this unfamiliar world because he was drunk. In his past life, Ye Chu was full of lust and lust. As a company executive, he loved to wander around various nightclubs and his life was rotten. 3 years ago, one night, Ye Chu was drunk at a bar. When he came home and opened the door, his foot slipped and he bumped into the door. So he inexplicably came to this world, and his soul fell on a young man named Ye Chu. Parasitic on this young man, Ye Chu still retains most of the memory fragments of his original owner. From these memory fragments, Ye Chu also knew what kind of character the original owner was. Before the memory of the original owner, Ye Chu already felt that he was a scumbag in his past life. But compared to the original owner, Ye Chu felt that his past life was a waste, insulting the pure word of scum. In Ye Chu's view, the original owner could hardly find a word to describe, and his bad character was unimaginable. He took a liking to a small family's jade carving and directly led people to smash people's houses, grabbing the jade carving. His attendants were attracted to a woman and even encouraged them to snatch her away. But for him, the act of forcibly taking and bullying men and women can already be considered as a matter of good conduct. Although the original owner had no power to bind chickens, he was still somewhat clever. He used his cleverness and family power to almost bring disaster to Yao City. During his stay as a guest at his grandfather's house, the original owner actually drugged his grandmother's adopted daughter Lin Shixin and had ulterior motives. After fleeing home, he even had ulterior motives towards his distant cousin Ji Dai, who had come to visit but was famous throughout the empire. And this also completely angered his grandfather, Marquis Weiyuan, who was so angry that he was severely beaten and even expelled from Yao City, allowing him to live and die on his own. The original owner was such a scumbag. Back then, Ye Chu was notorious in Yao City, almost to the point of a street mouse. In addition, he has a stubborn temperament and never cultivates, so all insulting words such as scum, waste materials, and livestock can be used on him. Ye Chu originally thought that 3 years later, this city of Yao would forget its original owner, but he did not expect that the people of Yao would have such a deep disgust towards him, and 3 years later, someone would still remember him. Ye Chu used to think that he should be a woman in his next life, and then found an excellent man like him to marry. But he never expected that his next life would be reborn in such a notorious person. Ye Chu felt that a genius like him, an elegant and gentle extraordinary man, should be carefully cared for by all the heavenly gods and Buddhas. However, he never expected that the heavenly gods and Buddhas would directly kill and stink him. Ye Chu suddenly felt that excellence is also a kind of pain. There is a saying that a woman's face is thin, but for an excellent man, it also works. It's really not good for a man to be too excellent. He will be jealous. Ye Chu couldn't help but sigh, thinking to himself that many women will stay up all night after his death. Auntie. Flowers. There are flowers. The excited voice of the little girl interrupted Ye Chu's memories. Ye Chu followed the voice and saw a little girl bouncing and jumping to the edge of the cold lake. The little girl is quite beautiful, with a bright smile on her pretty face at around 5 or 6 years old. Behind the little girl, followed by a mature woman, who was very familiar and charming, with a delicate face, a head of black shawl long hair, a pretty face like spring, and a straight nose bridge. Even though Ye Chu remembers the stunning beauty of Lin Shixin and Ji Dai, seeing this woman still leaves a sense of amazement. Auntie, Yao Yao wants flowers. The little girl pointed to an unknown flower by the cold lake, her voice jumping with excitement on her pretty face. The mature and charming woman followed behind the little girl, watching as she reached out to grab the flower and shouted urgently, Yao Yao, don't move, be careful. But her reminder was still one step late. The little girl didn't step on her feet firmly, and on one side of her body, she screamed and fell into the cold lake with a thud. Yao Yao. The mature and charming woman shouted out loud, her expression flustered, and ran towards this side. Ah! Help me! Auntie! The girl gestured in panic in the water, swaying her head on the surface of the water a few times and shouting a few times with a crying voice. But as she couldn't swim, after randomly splashing water, her whole body slowly sank, leaving no trace of her, only ripples submerged in water. Yao Yao. The mature and charming woman exclaimed in panic, I beg everyone to help save someone. The panicked cry for help went unanswered, and there were no people around who could swim. The mature and charming woman looked at the bubbles rolling up, but didn't care if she couldn't swim, so she suddenly jumped into the lake. Cold Lake is famous not only for its beauty, but also for its depth and coldness. The mature and charming woman jumped down, diving with a burst of anger, but she couldn't save anyone as she couldn't swim. As she jumped down, she also struggled in the water, constantly tapping the lake's surface with her hands, creating white splashes like her skin. However, after struggling a few times, she choked on a few mouthfuls of water and her body sank down. Save Yao Yao. Save. Her words were not finished, and people were also submerged by water. A few women who had just scolded Ye Chu for being scumbags saw this scene and their faces turned pale. They shouted around, come and save someone, 2 people have fallen into the water. But obviously no one around dares to try to save people. The cold lake is dangerous, and falling into the water is easily entangled by aquatic plants. If it weren't for someone who is quite familiar with water, how could they dare to go down? Just when a few women were in a hurry, they found themselves being scolded for being stared at by a scumbag. The young man ran from a distance, jumped up, and jumped into the lake. A few women didn't expect him to come to save people. They looked at each other and one of them muttered, it seems like he's just like that scumbag. If he were that scumbag, he wouldn't have gone into the water to save people. He would only throw stones on the shore and fall into the well. Chapter 2. Disrepute. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The water of the cold lake is cold, and Ye Chu felt a piercing cold as he jumped into it. This icy cold also startled Ye Chu's heart, and he couldn't help but worry about the two women. With a sudden increase in speed, he rolled in the water a few times and dived towards the depths of the water. The little girl and the mature and charming woman are not familiar with water, so they should not be too far away from here. Sure enough, Ye Chu didn't dive too far when he found the little girl. He reached out and took her over, only to find that she had already passed out. Ye Chu didn't care anymore at this moment, and soon discovered the woman still fluttering on the other side. Despite being separated by the water, Ye Chu could still see her arms waving, floating or sinking, and her feet swaying from time to time. However, this struggle did not last long, and her feet quickly drooped weakly, sinking continuously. Ye Chu quickly reached out and grabbed her, grabbing one with each hand and diving upwards. The water grass in the cold lake is very lush. When Ye Chu was diving, he was entangled in the water grass and couldn't get rid of it even after swimming a few times. The cold lake is so dangerous, so when I saw two people fall into the water just now, not many people dared to go into it. Because once entangled by aquatic plants, it is more or less unlucky. It is obvious that Ye Chu, who is holding on to the two of them at this moment, even if his water nature is good, there are still many dangers at this time. No matter how good his water nature is, he will have a headache in this situation. After struggling for a few moments without getting rid of it, Ye Chu gave a strong drink and said, "Cut it off." Suddenly, there was a magical scene, and the water plants that were entangled with Ye Chu were actually breaking apart step by step. With this, Ye Chu quickly flashed and climbed up, dragging the girl and the mature and charming woman onto the shore. Rescue, rescue. Several women were excited and ran up quickly to help Ye Chu drag the two of them up. A few women looked at Ye Chu, who was soaked all over, with a glint in their eyes. They didn't expect that this young man really had the ability to save two people in this dangerous lake. It's a pity that such a good young man has some acquaintance with that scumbag, several women muttered to themselves, their eyes fixed on Ye Chu. Ye Chu doesn't mind being stared at. Why is a man so handsome? Isn't it just for women to see? So in his past life, he would walk twice a day in the city center. Help wake them up. Ye Chu shouted to several women who were pressing on the girl's body. After a few consecutive presses, the girl's mouth gushed with water, and she suddenly coughed and woke up. Wake up, wake up. Several women looked excitedly at Ye Chu when they saw the girl wake up. However, they saw Ye Chu bowing down and kissing the woman like a mature kiss. What are you doing? You're taking advantage of someone's danger. Ye Chu Mei raised her head and drank, she drank too much water, this is to help her breathe. Seeing Ye Chu angry, several women were half convinced, and one of them spoke up, since that's the case, let's come. Nonsense. Ye Chu scolded, is a woman's aura comparable to that of a man? If you miss the best treatment time, will you be responsible for any problems? After being scolded by Ye Chu like this, several women remained silent and dared not ask for more, fearing that they would not be able to take responsibility if something really happened. Then hurry up. Cough. Before Ye Chu's lips could be pressed, the woman coughed fiercely. With this cough, a mouthful of water sprayed out, including water plants, which sprayed Ye Chu's face. Ah! Wiping his wet face and looking at the water grass on his hand, Ye Chu couldn't help but cry and laugh. Is this retribution? But if he wants retribution, let him take advantage of it first and then come back. My own lips haven't been printed yet. Wake up. A few women didn't care about Ye Chu's embarrassment, taking care of the girl and the mature and charming woman. With the help of everyone, although they were still a bit weak, they quickly recovered for the most part. Yao Yao. The mature and charming woman tightly hugged the girl and burst into tears. The girl was obviously also frightened and cried loudly while holding the mature and charming woman. Well. You're all wet all over, and it's easy to get sick in such weather. It's better to find a place to change into dry clothes. Ye Chu reminded him, seeing that the girl was already cold and her lips were a bit green. The mature and charming woman then turned her gaze to Ye Chu, and her face showed a grateful expression. If it weren't for this young man saving her today, she and Yao Yao were afraid of being buried in the cold lake. Bai Xian's eyes were a bit red and swollen, and with that pale pretty face, there was a heart that I couldn't help but pity. Thank you very much for saving your life, young master. Ye Chu shook his head and said, it's just a matter of lifting a finger. Don't worry, go back quickly, the child can't bear such a chill. The mature and charming woman nodded and said, can you know the name of the young master? Ye Chu. Ye Chu didn't hide it and replied directly. Ye Chu hoped that these women wouldn't turn their backs on his handsome face. Ye Chu had always believed that being handsome could enhance his character. What? Are you really Ye Chu? The women who had originally had a good impression of Ye Chusheng looked at Ye Chu with a hint of disbelief and a sense of loss. How could they not believe that the scumbag from Yaoqing could actually save people? That scumbag, throwing stones on the shore is the right thing to do. Moreover, that useless person with no binding power could actually save 2 people in the cold lake. While several women were surprised, they quickly showed a look of disgust, with panic flashing through their eyes. They were no longer close to Ye Chu, and several women avoided from afar as if they had seen a fly. Bai Xian is no stranger to this name, which was notorious in Heqing 3 years ago. However, she did not expect such a person to save her. She, who was originally grateful, now has a complex expression. Absent-mindedly, he bid farewell to Ye Chu and quickly led Yao Yao away from here, as if hiding from evil beasts. Although the young man in front of him may not seem annoying, his infamous reputation makes people have to guard against it. Bai Xian knows her charm, who can guarantee that she will lend a helping hand this time, not because of her beauty. In Yaoqing, this is a scumbag to the extreme. At first, there were not one person named Ye Chu in Yaoqing, but because he and his name became street mice, all people named Ye Chu changed their names and did not want to be contaminated by this name. Which scumbag in a city can make people with the same name and surname dislike it and change their name? And Ye Chu did it, he is such a top-notch person. Watching a group of women leave him with disgust on their faces, Ye Chu forced a bitter smile and said, the name scum really deeply ingrained in people's hearts. Even the strong aura of a gentleman emanating from the depths of one's own soul cannot be concealed. How annoying is he really? Chapter 3. Secret Love in Previous Lives. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Is it really you? I can't believe you scumbag really came back alive. Liang Shan looked at the familiar face in front of him and shouted excitedly. Just now, his follower stuttered like a ghost, saying that Ye Chu was looking for him. He didn't believe it and scolded the follower. With the repeated guarantees from the follower, he finally came out to take a look. He joyfully punched Ye Chu hard in the chest, only to find that Ye Chu, who had previously been weak, had not moved at all, which surprised him a bit. What? Are you surprised to see me? Ye Chu Shao looked at Liang Shan, his fox friend and dog friend. Although he was called Liang Shan, his wrongdoing was not much less than that of Ye Chu. In the past, he and Ye Chu together caused a disaster in Yao City, and his reputation spread far and wide, collectively known as the double harms of Yao City. Of course, Ye Chu bears much more insults than he does, not because Ye Chu has done more bad things than him, but because Ye Chu enjoys the feeling of fame spreading far and wide. The more fiercely he is scolded, the more he feels a sense of achievement. Therefore, it has always been Ye Chu who has led the way, which has led Liang Shan's family to believe that Ye Chu has caused him trouble. Liang Shan felt grateful for this and was willing to follow Ye Chu as his younger brother. After Ye Chu saved Bai Xian and the 2 of them and left, he found out where Liang Shan was and rushed over to find him. In Yaoqing, Ye Chu can only find him now. As for his family, he cannot go back at this time. Haha. I knew you were lucky enough to speak the curse of daring to compete with the 9 heavens, daring to break through the goddess's Yuquan cave. How could you possibly be killed? Liang Shan laughed heartily, and his admiration for Ye Chu came from this sentence. Back then, a group of people in Yaoqing who followed Ye Chu worshipped under this reckless words. Back then, they had always looked at Ye Chu's horse head, but they didn't expect Ye Chu to dare to take action against the infamous Empress Ji Dai in the empire. Liang Shan couldn't help but admire Ye Chu's courage. Hee. I really want to know if your intention to take the medicine was wrong back then, and did you succeed? Liang Shan looked at Ye Chu eagerly, feeling curious and itchy. Ye Chu kicked him fiercely, and this bastard poked his wound the first time they met. Doesn't he know that he failed to even have ulterior motives towards 2 women? Is this hitting a man's face? Ye Chu silently thought to himself, would you give him croton and stuff his anus? Seeing Ye Chu's malicious gaze, Liang Shan shuddered and quickly waved his hand, saying, just kidding. Liang Shan is well aware of the other party's terror, and he was often manipulated by Ye Chu back then. The most memorable thing for him was that he didn't know how to offend Ye Chu in the beginning. Ye Chu tricked himself into eating croissants and made himself head straight to the toilet. But this is not something he always has nightmares about at this moment. What he can't forget to this day is that he was convenient in the toilet because he filled it with croton beans, but Ye Chu actually called someone in and snatched his tissue paper. Liang Shan was forced to cry in the toilet, saying that the sky should not cry and the earth should not be agile. But this was just an appetizer, and then Ye Chu had someone bring a few boxes of toads. Liang Shan vividly remembered Ye Chu laughing at himself who was still in the pit, revealing a few pure white teeth. Then he waved his hand and asked a group of people to pour several boxes of toads into the toilet. It can be imagined how disgusting it is for a lively toad to jump out of the toilet, especially when it jumps onto itself. He, who was covered in feces after being jumped by the toad, couldn't help but wipe his butt and seemed to be able to escape. Just as they escaped, someone brought towels. At that time, Liang Shan couldn't care too much, so he wiped the disgusting feces off his body. Of course, he didn't forget to wipe his butt. Yet. Ye Chu actually dyed chili water on the towel, and Liang Shan now remembers clearly the burning pain at that time. Looking at Liang Shan shivering, Ye Chu shrugged and thought to himself that this guy's psychological resilience was too fragile. Liang Shan didn't know what Ye Chu was thinking. If he knew, he would definitely curse loudly. If you had such an experience, would you leave a shadow, you bastard? Looking around, it was a flower boat decorated in great luxury. Ye Chu could hear the singing of the birds in the boat, and it was obvious that there were people in the wind, flowers, snow, and moon inside. 3 years no see. How many women have been harmed? Ye Chu smiled calmly and asked Liang Shan naturally. Liang Shan felt that Ye Chu was a bit different. 3 years ago, Ye Chu was like a mischievous, crazy bully who climbed up and bit each other. But at this moment, Ye Chu brought a carefree and unrestrained feeling, which made Liang Shan shake his head and say, damn it. The mischievous Ye Chu can change this way, the sun is really about to shine in the west. For the past 3 years, I have been locked up at home by my father, studying poetry and martial arts. But I haven't done anything bad. So far, it's still the same place. Liang Shan said honestly. Ye Chu looked up and down at Liang Shan, remained silent for a long time before uttering a sentence. Are you talking about the upper part, the lower part, or the back part? Of course it's down there. Liang Shan felt like he was going crazy. This bastard is so disgusting. Ye Chu's face changed and he suddenly took a few steps back from Liang Shan. The bottom is still here. That means both the top and back are not here anymore. It's been 3 years since we last saw each other, and you've fallen to this point. Damn it. Liang Shan felt like he was going crazy, his stomach was churning and he couldn't help but spit it out. "Brother Ye Chu. I was wrong." Liang Shan wanted to cry, thinking to himself, what are you doing when you have nothing to mention about his cousin? Now you have finally been punished. Liang Shan quickly changed the topic and said, however, when the Yi family threw you out of Yao City, they said if you came back again, you would break your leg. Judging from their actions back then, it's not just talk. Why did you take such a big risk to come back? Liang Shan was very puzzled. Ye Chu's reputation in this city had long been so bad that it could no longer be smelly. At the point where everyone was shouting and fighting, returning here was completely seeking punishment. Always coming back. Ye Chu remained silent for a while before answering. His eyes were a bit deep, sinking into a certain emotion. Ye Chu's posture fell into Liang Shan's eyes, and Liang Shan exclaimed in surprise, "You're not for Su Rong, are you?" "Yes, it must be like this. You used to be the same before, and only talking about Su Rong would make you feel deeper. You can't forget her." Misunderstood by Liang Shan, Ye Chu couldn't help but cry and laugh. However, a graceful girl with a willow waist appeared in her mind. Su Rong was very memorable in the original owner's memory, as she was the girl Ye Chu had secretly fallen in love with before, very beautiful. Seeing Ye Chu's silence, Liang Shan thought he had guessed right. He exclaimed, "After so many years, you still have a crush on her. You really don't want to die for her. Don't you know what your situation is like in Yao City? Besides, will she have feelings for you? Ye Chu, it's better not to dream about it." "What nonsense. I'm not here for her." Ye Chu Shao scolded, "I've seen too many beautiful women in the past 3 years. If it weren't for your reminder, I would almost forget who she is. You just have to be tough. If you didn't come back for her, why did you come to this flower boat? Didn't you know that she was also on this flower boat at this time?" Liang Shan sneered and looked at Ye Chu with great disdain. "She's on this flower boat." Ye Chu was surprised, but he didn't expect such a coincidence. "Still pretending." Liang Shan sneered and grabbed Ye Chu, "Anyway. I'll take you inside and let you completely give up." Although Liang Shan thinks it's not good to take Ye Chu into the flower boat at this moment, after all, this time the flower boat is hosting a big shot, and there are many people among them who used to dislike Ye Chu. At first, Ye Chu was protected by the Yi family and they dared not do anything, but now that Ye Chu has been driven out of the Yi family, it would be dangerous to trouble him. However, in order to make Ye Chu give up, Liang Shan felt that it was better to let Ye Chu see Su Rong. Without seeing Su Rong, he was afraid that Ye Chu would not have the idea of being ashamed. Chapter 4. Goodbye to Old Friends. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The flower boat is not small, decorated in luxury, with a huge space in the center of the boat, interspersed with men and women, including beautiful women. Although this place may not be as bright and bustling as the bars of our past lives, it is not much different. Many wealthy young masters are indulging in extravagance among them. This flower boat is luxurious, isn't it? It's not the most important thing. The girls in this flower boat are all very beautiful. Liang Shan boasted to Ye Chu, "After tonight, I'll take you to have fun and forget about Su Rong." Liang Shan insisted that Ye Chu was just for Su Rong to return to Yao City. Ye Chu couldn't explain to him and could only treat him as not hearing, "This is a flower boat. Why is Su Rong here? Is she so macho?" This sentence made Liang Shan jump up in fear. He looked around and only breathed a sigh of relief when no one noticed him. Quickly jumping to Ye Chu's pale expression, he said, "Big brother. Don't speak recklessly anymore. If someone hears you, we'll be finished. You don't know what Su Rong's situation is like in Yao City. Just because of this sentence, I don't know how many people will come up and bite you." Seeing that Ye Chu didn't take his reminder to heart, Liang Shan couldn't help but explain, "Although the flower boat is a place of wind and moon, if there are activities, someone will also contribute to it. I don't know if you still remember Fang Xinyuan. This guy bought it this time. Fang Xinyuan is the eldest son of the Marquis of Fang and has some fame in the capital. 3 years ago, he achieved some success in both literature and martial arts. Ye Chu and he had no interaction, but they had some conflicts with his younger brother Fang Xinhu during the fierce competition. Miss Su Rong is here. The sound around startled Ye Chu's thoughts. Ye Chu followed the gaze of everyone and slowly walked out of the other end of the flower boat. Although the man was handsome and the woman was charming, everyone's eyes couldn't help but notice a woman. The woman has long and straight hair, flowing and charming. Her oval-shaped face is the standard beauty embryo, with a smooth forehead and skin as white as snow. Her long eyebrows and eyes are deep and bright, her nose is straight, and her lips are exceptionally soft. In short, she has a perfect and flawless face. As soon as this woman appeared, she became the center, and Ye Chu's gaze was also drawn to her. Seeing her again after 3 years, there was a stunning feeling. Ye Chu felt a touch in his heart, as if there was some attachment deep in his soul. Ye Chu was well aware that there was a reason for the residual soul of the previous body owner. Su Rong followed a group of people on both sides, except for a sweet-looking woman beside her, there were also several handsome men beside her. The brothers Fang Xinyuan stood on Su Rong's left side, with a tall figure and a bit of energy. The other few teenagers surrounding Su Rong were also some famous figures in Yao City. How about it? Give up. The men around Su Rong are getting better and better, and Fang Xinyuan is just one of them. Liang Shan said in front of Ye Chu, besides, Su Rong is very talented in martial arts. She is loved by countless people, and even the king recognizes her as an adopted daughter. Such a woman is not something we can expect. I don't think it's a problem for me not to give up now, but to have trouble coming to my door. Ye Chu looked ahead and felt a slight pain in his scalp. I thought to myself that Ye Chuzhen from the previous life had caused me a lot of trouble. Standing in such a remote place, I could be recognized and come knocking on my door. Liang Shan followed Ye Chu's gaze and saw a group of people walking towards them from afar. Their eyes showed surprise, but soon they were covered in disgust. Ye Chu. Fang Xinhu saw from afar that someone looked very similar to the scumbag 3 years ago, and standing with Liang Shan, he began to suspect that this person was Ye Chu. He only thought about how Ye Chu dared to set foot on this land, but also began to doubt it. Long time no see. I didn't expect you to remember me. Ye Chu smiled, everyone gathered here, not to organize a welcome party for me. Liang Shan almost didn't cry, thinking to himself that the welcome party is still here. It would be great if I didn't throw you rotten eggs. Shamelessly gilding one's face depends on the occasion, how can one admit to being Ye Chu at this time? When Fang Xinhu and his group saw Ye Chu admit it personally, they glanced at each other, and their disgust in their eyes grew even stronger. They never expected that the scumbag who was thrown out of Yao City would dare to come back and even appear in front of them. Su Xiaorong. Long time no see. While everyone was still immersed in memories, Ye Chu leaned against the wall and smiled calmly at Su Rong, who was graceful and elegant. Su Rong's eyes showed a look of surprise. She was not unfamiliar with Ye Chu, and she had heard of the infamous situation in Yao City. Su Rong also knew that Ye Chu had feelings for her. However, in the past, he dared not even talk to himself when he saw him, only daring to look at him from a distance. I didn't expect to see him again 3 years later, and he could naturally call out Su Xiaorong, lazily leaning against the wall with a somewhat unique and unrestrained demeanor. Can you also call Su Xiaorong? Before Su Rong could speak, a sweet-looking woman with a mole on her mouth stood up beside her and scolded Ye Chu. Zhang Suer was furious. Su Rong was her best friend, and she knew very well that Su Xiaorong could only be called by someone with whom Su Rong had an extremely close relationship. But Ye Chu called out. If this is misunderstood by others and there is any connection between Su Rong and the biggest scumbag in Yao City, then it will disgust Su Rong to death. At this moment, Fang Xinhu also reacted and shouted at Ye Chu, "You still have the face to enter Yao City. Hurry up and get out of Yao City. Otherwise, I will throw you into the cold lake to feed the fish." Ye Chu was not surprised by this result at all. He shrugged and smiled at Fang Xinhu, saying, "I threw it into the cold lake. At least there are fish that can eat it. But if you throw it into the cold lake, you dare not move even if you are afraid of the fish." Liang Shan couldn't help but laugh, thinking to himself that Ye Chu's teeth were still as sharp as before. However, thinking of the location, he immediately brought up his mind again. At this moment, Ye Chu had a conflict with them, just like seeking death. "You're tired of living." Fang Xian roared, his veins bulging on his arm. This scene made Liang Shan see it, and his heart couldn't help but jump out. He is well aware of Fang Xinhu's strength and has achieved some success in practicing martial arts. Among their group of young masters, he is also at a slightly above average level. Although Liang Shan did not know what Ye Chu had done in the past 3 years, 3 years ago Ye Chu was weak and uncontrollable. He knew very well that if he was punched by the other party, he would lose half of his life. Chapter 5. Bullying Men and Women. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Seeing Fang Xinhu's arms trembling and veins bulging, many people began to gloat. Many of them were bullied by Ye Chu back then, but due to his family background, they could only endure it. But at this moment, Ye Chu has been expelled from the Ye family, and it is time to teach him a good lesson. Ye Chu stood there calmly, without any change in expression due to Fang Xinhu's fist movements. However, Liang Shan pulled Ye Chu and whispered in Ye Chu's ear, "Run quickly. Don't go back to Yao City, you can't fight them now." Obviously, Fang Xinhu did not give Ye Chu a chance to escape and let the people around him block the way out. He looked at Ye Chu with a stern expression and said, "I have not forgotten the scene when you made me kneel to learn how to bark. If you also kneel down today and beg for mercy, and crawl through my pants, maybe I will let you go as soon as I am happy." Ye Chu didn't even glance at him, still leaning against the wall in a lazy posture, his gaze fixed on Su Rong. "Su Xiaorong. You are the daughter of the Prime Minister and a person of status. You can't bring some cats and dogs around you, can you? A guy like him who talks about wanting someone to sneak into his pants and smell his fishy 900-mile scent should be far away from you. You are only 900 bloody people." Fang Xian Tiger roared, and could not help but hit it. "How can I be so fishy, how can I be so floating? All right." Fang Xinyuan shouted, blocking his brother's mischief. He doesn't mind Ye Chu's life and death, but this time he's entertaining a big shot. If we could establish a relationship with this big shot, his Fang family might soar to the sky. At this time, we cannot let Fang Xinhu ruin big things. Fang Xinyuan scolded his younger brother and his gaze fell on Ye Chu, saying, "If I were you, I would leave Yao City far away. Unlike you, who are shameless here. You do it yourself." Fang Xinyuan finished speaking and left with a group of people. Su Rong glanced at Ye Chu and also left here. Zhang Suer sneered at Ye Chu when she saw Su Rong like this. Su Rong still ignored Ye Chu, that's right. How could such a notorious person get into Su Rong's eyes? In her opinion, every word Su Rong Ye Chu said was a reward to him, and from beginning to end, Su Rong never said a word to him. This is the proud Su Rong. Seeing this group of people walking away, Liang Shankai breathed a sigh of relief and said, "I'm scared to death. If they take action, you'll be in trouble today. Fortunately, a big shot is coming, so they're holding back." "Big shot?" Ye Chu asked in confusion. It is rumored that Yao is a crown prince of an ancient imperial family. Although Yao is a kingdom, it is far from being deeply rooted in the ancient family of the empire for many unknown years. The king has invited him to the palace as a guest. Many ministers such as the Prime Minister, the General, and the royal city have invited him as a guest, but except for the king's invitation, he has been refused. Ye Chu was somewhat surprised in his heart, thinking that this person's identity was indeed quite prestigious. In the royal city of Yao, Yao did not even give face to the Grand General of the Prime Minister, without a certain identity. I'm afraid he might have been beaten to death long ago. Just as Ye Chu and Liang Shan were talking, a boy walked into the flower boat from the other end. The boy was not tall, chubby, and had a round face with a greasy luster. Squinting his small eyes occasionally scanned the women around him, feeling very nauseous. The young man appeared, and Fang Xinyuan quickly welcomed him and respectfully said in front of him, "Sir. You have finally arrived." Fang Xinyuan was extremely excited in his heart. This was a big shot that even the Prime Minister couldn't invite, but he actually invited him. If he can establish some relationship with the other party, wouldn't he want to achieve great success? If he is willing to speak for himself, he has the courage to propose to the Prime Minister and marry Su Rong. The chubby boy let out a sigh, his gaze shifted away from Su Rong and Zhang Suer, his face showing a smile, and he fiercely patted Xin Yuan's shoulder. Okay. Not bad. This flower boat is not in vain. This sentence made Fang Xinyuan's heart blossom and he waved his hand repeatedly, saying, "As long as adults are happy, I can even keep a bag for a year." That's not necessary. The young man shook his head. I just walked around this flower boat, and although the girls in it were pretty good, they didn't match me well. That's it. Fang Xinyuan and his group quickly agreed, and even a group of women did not feel disgusted by his words. On the contrary, it was the beautiful eyes circulating around staring at him. Although this young man doesn't look very good, his noble status is enough to make them fall in love. Only Su Rong and Zhang Suer frowned, but they didn't say anything. They all know that he has a special identity, and even if they don't like him, they have to endure it. Liang Shan couldn't help but sneer at the young man and said, "I was just arrogant, but in front of this young man, I'm still flattering like a dog." However, Liang Shan immediately became jealous again and said, "Fang Xinyuan really had bad luck. How could we establish a relationship with him? If I could establish a relationship with him, Fang Xinyuan and others would be like a dog in front of us." After speaking, Liang Shan turned his head to look at Ye Chu, only to see that Ye Chu looked at the chubby boy with a strange expression. Liang Shan only felt that Ye Chu's heart was shaken by the power of the chubby boy, and he didn't think much. But when he turned his head, he found that Fang Xinhu looked at them with disdain, in stark contrast to his attitude towards the chubby boy, treating them with arrogance. Fang Xinhu sneered and muttered, "Two useless people. We'll have to deal with you sooner or later. Sir. Do you have any further requirements? Let's prepare." Fang Xinyuan said to the chubby boy. "No need." The chubby boy shook his head and suddenly pointed to Zhang Suer, saying slowly, "Let her sleep with me, young master." One sentence, leaving the surroundings completely silent. Everyone stared at the chubby boy, and then their eyes stared blankly at Zhang Suer. No one expected the chubby boy to make this request. Su Rong and Zhang Suer were also stunned, their eyes involuntarily looking towards Fang Xinyuan. After being taken aback for a moment, Fang Xinyuan burst out laughing and said, "Your Excellency really likes to joke. Miss Su Er is the daughter of Baron Zhang, not the girl from Hualu." "I'm not joking." Pang Shao stared at Fang Xinyuan and said, "I turned the flower boat around and didn't have a suitable woman to sleep with. There are only two people I'm interested in here. Naturally, the adopted daughter of your king can't sleep with her, so let's settle for the second best." The other party's serious tone made Zhang Suer pale and staring straight at a group of men. "I hope they can come forward and help her refuse." However, the man who usually followed her all the time turned his head as if he hadn't seen her. "I won't accompany you." Zhang Suer could only shout out to herself when she saw no one speaking for her. That's not up to you. Even if I ask your king will still send you to me. Pang Shao smiled. No one doubts the authenticity of this statement, including Su Rong and Zhang Su'er. Zhang Su'er's body couldn't help but tremble. She looked at the group of men pleadingly, hoping that they would stand up, but found that the man was far away from him. Follow Ben to the room. Pang Shao laughed, but his laughter was out of sync with the silence around him. Everyone felt extremely piercing, but no one dared to interrupt the laughter. Zhang Su'er's expression was pale, and she finally turned her gaze to Fang Xinyuan, with a pleading expression. At the same time, she cast a pleading gaze on Su Rong. Staring at by two women, Fang Xinyuan, although his scalp was tingling, took a step forward and said, "Sir, can I find another woman to accompany you?" Before Fang Xinyuan could finish speaking, Pang Shao angrily shouted, "What are you? You dare to speak in front of me?" Pang Shaoxi did not give face to Fang Xinyuan, nor did she need to give him face. This angry shout was like a thunderous anger, shaking all around like a cold cicada. Fang Xinyuan's face turned pale, and he dared not say a word more. Su Rong was disappointed, and Zhang Su'er was also disappointed. Unexpectedly, Fang Xinyuan, who had always claimed to be a gentleman, was scolded by the other party and dared not even speak, so he watched his companion deliver to the tiger's mouth. Zhang Su'er's eyes were lifeless, and tears kept flowing out of them. She felt as if she had lost all her strength. In this quiet and oppressive space, she couldn't stand steadily and grabbed a chair before falling. Zhang Su'er glanced at Fang Xinhu. He had always liked himself and had threatened to die for her, but now he also avoided her gaze. Zhang Su'er's heart was as dead as ashes, biting her lips, and crimson blood oozed from them. And just as Zhang Su'er accepted her fate and gave Su Rong a miserable smile as she prepared to jump into the cold lake, she found a young man slowly walking out behind Su Rong, still looking lazy. Chapter 6 is about Mei Chutou. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Zhang Su'er covered her mouth, her originally lifeless eyes showing an expression of disbelief. Tears flowing like a stream suddenly stopped, and her head was in chaos. No matter how much she guessed, she wouldn't have thought that this person would come forward. She stood there dumbfounded, staring at the young man with his hands in his pockets and a casual and unrestrained posture. Su Rong saw Zhang Su'er's unusual appearance and turned her head in confusion to look over. When she saw the scene in front of her, she was also lost in thought, her beautiful eyes fixed on the boy she had previously ignored. This once notorious boy slowly walked forward, his pace not fast but very steady, and every step made Su Rong's heart tremble. There was still silence all around, and no one noticed the changes on this side. Pang Shao's scolding made them afraid to speak, even to the point of not even breathing, and they remained silent like cicadas, suppressed to the extreme. The young man's pace was not fast, but Zhang Su'er and Su Rong's eyes were focused on him. The two crystal-clear hearts shook with his steps, and the lifeless heart quietly bloomed with a bit of vitality at this step. Pang Fatty. You've caused enough harm to Yunlong City, and now you've come to harm Yao City again. Be careful not to have your thing cut off by someone. But in a space so quiet that it was difficult to breathe and shrouded in dark clouds, a word of laughter and scolding rose up in a low voice, but in this silent environment, it sounded like thunder in everyone's ears. Who the hell is looking for? Pang Shao became angry, and he disliked people calling him fat the most. Someone used to call him chubby, without knowing the height and thickness of the earth, and he cut off his tongue. However, before he could finish this angry sentence, when he turned his head and saw the familiar figure, he suddenly stopped the following sentence. Looking at Ye Chu incredulously, he never expected to encounter this calamity in Yao City. Everyone's gaze suddenly fell on Ye Chu at this moment, just like Zhang Su'er, they did not believe that Ye Chu would stand up for Zhang Su'er. One head at a time can't turn. But after a moment of silence, the group finally reacted and began to laugh in their hearts. I don't know what to do. He dares to step forward. Scumbags have changed their ways. They can even save the beauty with heroes. You've become obsessed with lust. If you mess with a chubby boy, you'll die even more thoroughly. These people sneered from the bottom of their hearts, forgetting that they had just suppressed their breath under Pang Shao's authority and dared not speak out. Liang Shan looked at Ye Chu as he walked into the room. He also opened his mouth wide, and his relatively handsome face turned pale. He never expected that Ye Chu would stand up and stop the chubby boy. What is the identity of the chubby man in front of him? Just tidy up Ye Chu and wave your hand to break him down in 8 pieces. That's it. Liang Shan only had this thought left in his mind. He looked at the group of people from Fang Xinyuan and indeed saw them smiling, obviously waiting to see the good play. Fang Xinhu was even more excited, and Ye Chu intervened to stop Pang Shao. Pang Shao's attention was diverted by Ye Chu, making Zhang Su'er safe. At the same time, this annoying kid was about to be killed by Pang Shao. Everyone was hoping that Ye Chu would be slapped to death by Pang Shao, but this scene did not appear. What Fang Xinyuan and the others saw was a different scene, but this scene was a challenger to their small hearts. The small hearts throbbed like the frequency of a daughter-in-law encountering a lover. Each of them stared with round eyes, their pupils contracting and sucking in the cool air as they looked in front of them. Ye Chu walked to the scene and flew out with one foot, kicking Pang Shao's plump buttocks. You scold me and give it a try. Liang Shan felt like he was going to faint at this moment, pinching himself hard, trying to stay awake, and propping up the table next to him with his hands to prevent it from falling. After blinking his eyes hard and confirming that what he saw in front of him was true, he froze in place, with only one thought left in his mind. Ye Chu is crazy. Everyone, including Su Rong, looked at the footprints on Pang Shao's plump buttocks and thought of it. This is a person who is highly respected by the king. Who in Yao City is not respectful to him? But surprisingly, someone dared to kick him. At this moment, let's not say that Pang Shao didn't let Ye Chu go. Those who wanted to establish a relationship with Pang Shao in Yaoqing would also take action for him. Not to mention that Ye Chu is being expelled from the Yi family at this moment. Even if he is still a child of the Yi family at this moment, it is unlikely that he can be saved. Just now, Fang Xinyuan and his group, who dared not say a word, roared angrily at Ye Chu as if they had found a target to vent their anger. Bold! Fang Xinhu, come and catch him. Fang Xinhu was excited and ran up to capture Ye Chu, but when his hand, transformed into an eagle claw, was about to fiercely grab Ye Chu's shoulder, his movement suddenly stopped. Pang Shao, who was kicked by Ye Chu, turned around and didn't pat the footprints on his fat buttocks. He gave Ye Chu a hard pat on the shoulder and said, "Damn it. Why are you also here?" The intimate actions of the two matched Pang Shao's words, and the group who had originally attacked Ye Chu suddenly stopped their attack. Their movements were still frozen in space, as if time had come to a standstill for this moment. Ye Chu Gang was equally shocked when he saw Pang Shao. He knew that he would meet his old friend here. A year ago, he traveled to the mainland and met Pang Shao in the imperial capital. He took him on a few crazy things and never expected to see him again in Yao City today, a year later. I know you're going to do something bad. So I'm here to stop you. Ye Chu shrugged, after all, I'm a person with conscience. Upon hearing these words, Liang Shan almost didn't spit out a mouthful. Just now, he was afraid that because Ye Chu's words had swept away everything, even Ye Chu's reputation in Yao City dared to speak publicly about his conscience, a typical example of being struck by lightning. Pang Shao had long witnessed the shamelessness of this person, and it was not the first time he had belittled others and elevated himself. Therefore, Ye Chu was not surprised to say this sentence. If I had known that your calamity was here, I wouldn't have come to kill you. It's disgusting to see you. Pang Shao felt that he must have gone out without burning incense, otherwise how could he have seen this calamity in a small kingdom like Yao? For this calamity, he has a deep memory. He has calculated it multiple times, but unfortunately, he cannot even express his suffering. A year ago, I met him in the imperial capital of Yunlong City. Seeing him as a newcomer, I felt that he was easy to bully. But to his surprise, as the dominant figure in Yunlong City, he was constantly schemed and tossed around, making him hate him so much that he gritted his teeth and couldn't do anything about it. However, although this calamity caused them half to die, it led them to do several particularly crazy and passionate things. While making them hate, they can't help but get close to each other. Ye Chu and Pang Shao know each other. Everyone understood and looked at Ye Chu strangely. I was amazed in my heart and couldn't understand how the notorious scumbag in Yaoqing could possibly have known the big shots from the imperial capital. Liang Shan felt even more incredulous. Looking at Ye Chu, who was chatting and laughing with Liang Shan, he felt a moment of confusion. What exactly happened to Ye Chu in the past 3 years? Surprisingly, I know people like Pang Shao. This is the crown prince of an ancient imperial family. Every ancient family is mysterious, and their heir naturally goes without saying that ordinary people can have an intersection with them. Judging from Ye Chu's ability to kick each other without getting angry, the two of them were obviously familiar to a certain extent. Fang Xinyuan and a group of people were also dumbfounded in the same place. No one expected such a result, their eyes fixed on Ye Chu and Pang Shao, wondering and curious about their relationship. Su Rong and Zhang Suer couldn't help but hold their fists, hoping that Ye Chu could change Pang Shao's mind. Beautiful eyes stared straight at Ye Chu. This was a treatment that Ye Chu had never received before. Chapter 7. Pang Shao's Anger. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. De Co Lois Ara Trong Quatrin Lay Text. Chapter 8. Su Rong's Doubts. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. Su Rong and Zhang Suer both clenched their fists tightly, staring straight at the two of them with swords and crossbows drawn. Although they were not sure about Pang Shao's strength, Su Rong had heard his father say that the young generation in Yao City could never match him in terms of military strength by more than 5. And who is Ye Chu? He is just a playboy with no power to bind a chicken, not comparable to Pang Shao. Su Rong couldn't help but sigh, unsure if it was for Ye Chu or for Zhang Suer's fate. Ye Chu looked at Pang Shao, who was about to go berserk, and rolled his eyes to look at him, thinking to himself that he wasn't scared. If you really dare to take action, you may learn from your grandfather and hang you up. If you smoke for 3 days, you will be honest. Get out of the way. Pang Shao angrily said to Ye Chu, burning with anger and showing immense strength. Pang Shao, who was furious with his foresight, was completely frightened. At this moment, Fang Xinyuan only has one thought. Will Pang Shao vent his anger on him because of Ye Chu's fault? If he were to vent his anger on him, his future life would definitely not be easy. Even if his father knew he had offended Pang Shao, he would definitely punish himself severely. Bastard! What are you doing to provoke this gentleman so well? Fang Xinyuan hated Ye Chu deeply and completely forgot their previous cowardice, and what Ye Chu did was to protect their female companion. Fang Xinyuan gave Fang Xinhu a glance, and Fang Xinhu nodded knowingly. He quickly stepped forward and said, "Don't be angry, adults. We will immediately drive this scumbag out of the boat. It's not worth getting angry about such a useless person, adults." Yeah. Sir, there's no need to be angry about such a small matter. I'll have someone drive him out now. Fang Xinyuan stood up to appease Pang Shao. Upon seeing their posture, Su Rong and Zhang Suer's eyes showed disdain, and Su Rong felt even more disgusted. She even accepted such an invitation to come to the flower boat. Although Ye Chu is notorious, he gathers countless curses in one voice. But after all, he still looks like a man, but what about them? I can't even compare to someone they call scumbags, pretending to be a person. Ye Chu. Get out. Otherwise, I'll personally throw you into the cold lake. Fang Xinhu dared not show off his power in front of Pang Shao, but he was very arrogant towards Ye Chu. And it was precisely because of these words that Pang Shao's madness, which was full of energy and blood, suddenly dissipated. He looked at Fang Xinhu with a very strange expression and said, I didn't hear you wrong, did I? This guy is going to throw Ye Chu into the cold lake. Yao City produces talent. It's much more arrogant than I did. Being scolded by Fang Xinhu, Ye Chu was also shocked. Seeing Pang Shao looking at him with a smile, it was obvious that Pang Shao liked to see him in such an embarrassing scene. Fang Xinhu didn't know why, but saw Pang Shao's smile. I thought Pang Shao appreciated his actions, which made him feel like he had beaten chicken blood. Get out of here. If I take action, it's no wonder I'm short of arms and legs. Fang Xinhu looked disdainfully at Ye Chu, with a proud and superior expression. Pang Shao's smile deepened, his small eyes squinted as he looked at Fang Xinhu with a playful expression. Fun. It's so interesting. Ye Chu is absolutely right in saying that there are indeed everyone in this world. After a dog eats shit and is full, it will feel like a tiger. Are you challenging me? Ye Chu looked at Fang Xinhu, feeling a bit crazy. This time, he was embarrassed in front of Pang Shao. Pang Shao will soon spread the news about him being called a scumbag in Yao City, and this guy can use this news to investigate his reputation in Yao City. In the future, a group of people like Pang Shao will inevitably use this character to despise him. Before this, Ye Chu had always been very arrogant and boasted that his character would definitely surpass theirs. How about challenging you? Fang Xinhu held his head high and didn't even pay attention to Ye Chu, especially as he watched Pang Shao's growing smile. He straightened his chest. Okay. I'll take it. Ye Chu said word by word, almost gritting his teeth as he looked at Fang Xinhu. This guy has ruined his character, so he can't expect to get better. Liang Shanjian was startled when Ye Chu agreed, but he didn't care too much. He quickly walked up to Ye Chu and grabbed him, saying, Don't act recklessly. Fang Xinhu is not weak, although he can't compare to his elder brother, he is also a 7th Dan warrior. You have no strength to bind your hands, and accepting his challenge will result in serious damage even if you don't die. This sentence made Ye Chu couldn't help but look at Fang Xinhu, surprised by his 7 Dan strength. The power of the 7 Dan can be comparable to that of a fierce bull. In this martial world, it is not a big deal, but at an age like Fang Xinhu, it is still quite good. Although I have not yet truly entered the level of cultivation, I have taken a solid step forward. In this world, there are countless people practicing martial arts. In the process of practicing martial arts, they pay attention to the cultivation of their own spirit, swallow the essence of the sun and the moon, and seize the heaven and earth. This can also be considered as 3 levels, and only by reaching the level of cultivating one's own spiritual essence can one truly enter the level of martial arts cultivation. There are 10 stages before martial arts cultivation, and these 10 stages are the foundation before martial arts cultivation. Almost everyone in this world can practice and play a few tricks. A person like Ye Chu, who was uneducated and devoid of cultivation, can definitely be considered an exception. The strength of Qidong is relatively strong. For ordinary people, even if they are poor, their entire life cannot reach 5 stages. Su Rong saw Fang Xinhu staring at Ye Chu with fierce eyes, and couldn't help but stand up. Beautiful and beautiful, with a pair of clear eyes staring at Fang Xinhu, she said, What kind of skill is bullying him? Why don't you talk to outsiders? Su Rong looked at Fang Xinhu with great disdain. Although she didn't like Ye Chu, she now disliked Fang Xinyuan's group even more. Being scolded by Su Rong, Fang Xinhu was also a bit panicked. He tried to calm his emotions and retorted, He promised me to challenge himself. I didn't force him. Fang Xinhu dared not look at Su Rong, but shouted to Ye Chu, Give me 3 punches. With a powerful punch, without any fancy, it hit Ye Chu's chest. Zhang Su'er and Liang Shan were both anxious and frightened when they saw it. With this punch, Ye Chu was afraid that he would lose half of his life. Fang Xinyuan and everyone had a smile on their faces. Ye Chu and these scumbags had wanted to clean up a long time ago. Now, Fang Xinhu is taking action on their behalf and can still please Pang Shao. Why not do it? Pop. The expected sound of hitting the chest did not occur, but a crisp slap in the face. Everyone looked into the field, and the scene in front of them seemed to keep their heads from turning. The red palm imprint was imprinted on Fang Xinhu's face, and his left face swelled up like this. Fang Xinhu stumbled and fell once, hitting the table, and his forehead was bruised with blood. This is impossible. Everyone, including Liang Shan, found it unbelievable. How could Ye Chu slap Fang Xinhu? After all, he is a 7th Dan power. Although I haven't really entered the path of martial arts yet, I am still far stronger than ordinary people. You have quite thick skin, slapping you makes your hand ache. Liang Shan felt that Ye Chu was too unkind. He slapped him and even scolded him for having thick skin. This is a typical cold talk. The enraged Fang Xinhu ignored the rumbling of his eardrums and slapped Ye Chu fiercely, much more domineering than the previous punch. This was his angry and swift move. Pop. In the disbelief of countless people, Ye Chu slapped Fang Xinhu's face again without bias. This time, Fang Xinhu didn't have such good luck and was directly pulled away by Ye Chu. He stumbled backwards and crashed into the window, falling into the cold lake with a thud. There was silence all around, and everyone's gaze was focused on Ye Chu. Everyone, including Su Rong, was surprised by Ye Chu's 2 slaps, even though they saw that Ye Chu's 2 slaps had no technical skills. Perhaps flying a 7th Dan person at least indicates that Ye Chu is not simple. 3 years ago, he had no strength to tie a chicken in his hands, but now he can fly the 7 Dan Fangxin tiger. Has something happened to him in these 3 years? Su Rong's cold gaze fell on Ye Chu, and her heart couldn't calm either. She is very clear about the character standing in front of her, and it is not an exaggeration to say it is a waste material. Such a person, not to mention slapping and flying the 7-section Fangxin tiger, even ordinary people have only a chance to escape. He is known as a waste material and scumbag, but he confronts Fang Xinhu with a strong posture and even dares to provoke Pang Shao. Su Rong couldn't see through it. Is this still the Ye Chu who only relies on his family background and does all the bad things? Chapter 9. Accompanying Beauty. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. De Co Lois Ara Trong Quatrin Lay Text. Chapter 10. 3 Years of Action. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. A year ago, you suddenly disappeared, and we thought you were dead. Unexpectedly, you came to a small royal city like Yao City. Pang Shao and Ye Chu walked to a quiet room on the flower boat. Su Rong and Zhang Su'er had just taken their seats, and Pang Shao saw a seat next to Su Rong and Zhang Su'er, and he was just about to sit there. But Ye Chu suddenly sat between Su Rong and Zhang Su'er. Damn it. Pang Shao cursed in his heart, thinking that he couldn't compare to Ye Chu's shameless demeanor. I just wanted to sit against Zhang Su'er, but Ye Chu sat directly between the 2 women, embracing each other. After all, I can't compare to Ye Chu, this bastard. He's bold enough to be shameless. Pang Shao cursed in his heart and could only sit across the table from Liang Shan. A person was squeezed in between Su Rong and Zhang Su'er, almost pressing against Ye Chu's body. They couldn't help but lean towards both sides, their eyes fixed on Ye Chu. Ye Chu remained calm and indifferent, turning a blind eye to their gaze, feeling a deep hatred but helpless. Su Xiaorong. I remember you were good at brewing tea before. How about it? How about brewing a few cups for me? Sitting against the 2 women, one could almost smell the faint fragrance emanating from their bodies, which was somewhat tantalizing. Looking sideways at Su Rong, her beautiful face and skin were as beautiful as snow and jade. "Are you drinking tea again? Damn it, can you drink wine once?" Pang Shao was going crazy, he had known Ye Chu for so long. But every time this guy drinks, he turns into drinking tea. How can you tolerate drinking tea like a woman, big men? Unfortunately, Ye Chu enjoyed it. At that time, they had done everything they could to intimidate and lure Ye Chu into drinking. Even told Ye Chu that as long as he could drink, he would find a renowned imperial socialite to accompany him. Their lure also had an effect, and Ye Chu promised that if he had beauty as his companion, he could consider drinking. But when they spent a great deal of money to find a beautiful woman to accompany them to drink, Ye Chu completely forgot his words and took the famous lady to drink tea again. The most shameless thing is that when Pang Shao and a group of people questioned Ye Chu about not keeping his promise, Ye Chu said nonchalantly, "Don't you know that considering is actually a polite refusal? Forget it, it's all because you were born too stupid and don't understand human relationships. It's sad and lamentable." After saying these words, Ye Chu left a stunned person on the ground, leading the socialite to leave, causing Pang Shao and others to grit their teeth in hatred but unable to do anything about it. Pang Shao originally thought that when he met his old friend in a foreign land, it was Ye Chu who suggested drinking. How could Ye Chu get some alcohol, but he didn't expect this guy to still drink his mother's tea. "I dare not even touch alcohol, acting like a man." Pang Shao couldn't help but stimulate Ye Chu. Ye Chu turned a blind eye to Pang Shao's words, but such despicable means could not stimulate him. As for not getting involved in alcohol, it is also a legacy left by his past life. In his past life, he died from drinking too much, which led to Ye Chu's loss of interest in alcohol. Thinking about my past life, even in my dreams, I wouldn't have thought that I could persist for 3 years without getting involved in bars. Rong was surprised to see that Ye Chu did not drink alcohol. She vividly remembers that 3 years ago, Ye Chu loved to go crazy after drinking alcohol, and many immoral things were done after drinking. How could such a person drink tea for self-cultivation and self-cultivation? Knowing that he couldn't force Ye Chu, Pang Shao could only hold on to Liang Shan to accompany him. Liang Shan was escorted by Pang Shao to drink, and was greatly flattered. He repeatedly clinked glasses with Pang Shao. I was also surprised by the relationship between Ye Chu and Pang Shao in my heart. Pang Shao's familiarity with me was obviously due to Ye Chu's reasons. Liang Shan turned his head to look at Ye Chu, only to see that Ye Chu was just taking the tea brewed by Su Rong. Su Rong, the Pearl of Yaoqing, personally accompanied Liang Shan in brewing tea. Liang Shan's blood boiled when he thought about it, which was something he had never thought of before. Reaching out to take the tea cup, Ye Chu's fingers touched Su Rong's delicate jade fingers, with a silky touch. Su Rong reflexively withdrew her fingers. Pang Shao saw this scene and couldn't help but feel jealous. "When you were in the Empire, your Highness brewed tea for you. Surprisingly, there were beauties accompanying you here." With one sentence, everyone's gaze suddenly turned to Ye Chu, including Su Rong, who showed signs of suspicion. "Your Highness." "What Your Highness?" A person who can be called His Highness in the Empire will definitely not have a weak position. Is it Royal Highness Princess? But if he were really Royal Highness Princess, how could he make tea for Ye Chu? A few people looked at Ye Chu with suspicion, feeling more and more that there were a series of mysteries on Ye Chu's body. Pang Shao saw that Ye Chu ignored his jealousy. He suddenly thought of something and chuckled, "If your Highness knew you were in Yaoqing, I wonder if she would come over and kill you." "Damn it!" Ye Chu finally cursed, "How dare you tell that little girl where I am? You won't want to touch women for the rest of your life." "I have to tell." Pang Shao was also angry, his face turned pale with anger. He had lied to himself in the imperial capital of Ye Chu, saying, "There is a very charming and beautiful woman in the hot spring pool." I didn't think too much and ran over directly. It turned out to be Her Highness the Holy Maiden in the bath. So, his tragic fate began, being cleaned up by the attendants of the saint every day. That month, he was not completely intact. Pang Shao kept explaining that it was calculated by Ye Chu, but the holy maiden could believe it. In the end, Pang Shao could only make a poisonous oath: if you lie, you will never meet a woman again in the second half of your life. Her Highness, seeing him make such a malicious oath, only then did she doubt and let Pang Shao go. Then he began searching the world for Ye Chu, wanting to know if it was true. Ye Chu is very clever. When she looks for it, she doesn't know where she has gone, leaving His Highness the Virgin helpless. This time, I must tell His Highness the Virgin. Otherwise, I don't know how His Highness will deal with me. Pang Shao couldn't help but shudder as he remembered the day when he was tormented by the Virgin. Ye Chu suddenly smiled and looked at Pang Shao, saying, "It's okay if you tell her. If there's anything fun to do in the future, you won't have much of a share." "Why?" Pang Shao became even angrier. "Just rely on the rule of, you have to listen to me during the activity. Ye Chu shrugged and smiled. With one sentence, although Pang Shao was angry, he silently bit his teeth. Pang Shao's silence made Su Rong and Liang Shan both stare wide-eyed, feeling their minds go blank for a moment. They looked at Ye Chu incredulously, and Liang Shan trembled even more. What? What? As the crown prince of an ancient imperial family, Pang Shao, who is even polite to the king, actually wants to listen to Ye Chu. Liang Shan felt a tingling sensation in his mind, but still asked with a hint of tremolo, Ye Chu, what have you been doing in the past 3 years?"